So the importance of community banks is they are, as they are called, they're in the community, led by members of the community. They are people who understand the capacity of the community, the needs of the community, the culture of the community.
What an idiot!
That was our genius Vice President Kamala Harris explaining the community bank like she's teaching a kindergarten class. This is a pattern with Harris where she just takes what something is called and then uses that when she's trying to define it. Another good example would be when she was talking about the work of community work.
The work of community work, and in particular violence intervention, is about investing in the community, understanding our capacity, understanding the greatness, and then being motivated with that knowledge to do what we can to reduce harm, but not for the sake only of reducing harm, but in investing in the potential and the greatness. That is the essence of this work.
She also said that she's in favor of the Second Amendment, and it's not an either or whether you're in favor of the Second Amendment or whether you want to take guns away. Then immediately after that, she said she wanted to take guns away.
And it is a false choice to suggest that you're either in favor of the Second Amendment or you want to take everyone's guns away. I'm in favor of the Second Amendment, and we need an assault weapons ban. I support the Second Amendment, and we need universal background checks. I support the Second Amendment, and we need red flag laws.
For any leftist or anti-gun people who may be watching, it couldn't be more clear in the Second Amendment right here: shall not be infringed. Now you might think whatever level of education that you have is sufficient, but there is no greater knowledge than knowledge learned from Kamala Harris. So on that note, we're going to call this next segment Kamala Harris Explains the World. And buckle up, because you're about to learn things you never knew about apps, transportation, equity, coconut trees, democracy, artificial intelligence, and role models.
And I again want to thank the Secretary for your work. This issue of transportation is fundamentally about just making sure that people have the ability to get where they need to go. It's that basic. And I think the first part of this issue that should be articulated is AI is kind of a fancy thing. It's, first of all, it's 2 letters. It means artificial intelligence. But ultimately what it is it's about machine learning. And so the machine is taught. And part of the issue here is what information is going into the machine that will then determine, and we can predict then, if we think about what information is going in, what then will be produced in terms of decisions and opinions that may be made through that process. On the bus, go round and round. Here's the thing. We were all born knowing that there's nothing we can take for granted.
What?
When you're a role model, people watch what you do to see if it matches what you say. And increasing the use and development of apps. On that last point, I'd ask you to just imagine your own smartphone and the apps that it contains, and what those apps then give you in terms of access to a myriad of information. The idea of exploring the unknown. And systems that help you go about your daily life. Everything is in context. My mother she would give us a hard time sometimes, and she would say to us, I don't know what's wrong with you young people. You think you just fell out of a coconut tree? You exist in the context of all in which you live and what came before you. You know, so many of us have come from movements that were about the fight for equality. We also understand there's a difference between equality and equity. Equity is everyone deserves to have, right, and be treated equal. But equity understands that not everybody starts out on the same base. So if you're giving everybody an equal amount, but they're starting out on different bases, are they really going to have the opportunity to compete and achieve? That's why we purposefully, as an administration, the president, myself, the secretary, and everyone in our administration are so dedicated to a specific principle, which is that of equity. The nature of democracy there are two sides to it in terms of the nature of it. There's a duality. On the one hand, when democracy is intact, it is incredibly strong in terms of the strength it bestows on the individuals in terms of their rights and their freedoms. Incredibly strong in terms of what it does for its people. On the other hand, it's very fragile. Our democracy will only be as intact as our willingness to fight for it. And so fight we must, and fight we will. You know, I think so much about, I talk about, you know, we talk about the arc. I think about it as also like a relay race, and those who carried the baton and were measured by what they did when they had it, and then they passed it to us.
Yeah. Well,
and the point will be, what do we do while we're carrying the baton?
Before we pass
it. Understanding that the race will never be over. But the question is, what do you do in the time when you're carrying the baton?
That's exactly right.
Right?
I mean, honestly, it's like kindergarten.
After watching that, I'm sure you feel like you're much smarter now, so congratulations. Back to the recent speech by Harris, it wouldn't be a Kamala Harris speech unless she used her favorite phrase, what can be unburdened by what has been.
You must have and know that you are applauded for having the ability to see what can be unburdened by what has been. What can be unburdened by what has been. Always believe in what can be unburdened by what has been. What can be unburdened by what has been. That can be unburdened by what has been.
What can be unburdened by what has been.
Seeing what is possible unburdened by what has been.
What can be unburdened by what has been.
What can be unburdened by what has been. Where we can be unburdened by where we have been.
What can be unburdened by what has been.
Unburdened by what has been. What could be unburdened by what had been. What can be unburdened by what has been. What could be unburdened by what had been.
I got some words. I got the vocabulary.
I gave her the benefit of the doubt. I did not think she was an idiot. I now think she's a moron. She's not that smart. Forgive me. I'm still one of those people who gets wooed by titles. I'm like, she was the Attorney General of the state of California. You know, like, how dumb could she be? Like, dumb. The answer is very, very dumb is the answer.